Today, let's talk about something that we all read and enjoy. Can you guess what the topic of today's program is? Hey, you guessed it right. We will be talking about books, or more specifically, books as a medium of communication today. But before we start, let me introduce our subject expert to you. Our subject expert today is Shikha Gandhi, and I am Amrita Ghoshkumar. At the completion of today's program, you will be able to understand the history of books, be aware of the different types of books, role and impact of books on readers as a medium of communication. But before talking about books as a medium of communication, let's understand what communication is. Communication, a background. A definition of communication. Let us begin with the definition of communication. Communication is a process of exchange of ideas, information through thoughts, messages or language and visuals, writing or behavior. It can be intentional or it can be unintentional. The minimum requirement for communication to happen is a sender, a receiver and a message. And communication can happen over vast distances and it requires some commonality between the receiver and the sender to happen. This commonality can be of language, context and culture. When the receiver understands the message 100%, the communication is said to be complete. B. 3 revolutions that have shaped communication. These are pictographs or drawings on caves, writing and printing on paper. This made communication mobile. Example, books. Transfer of information through electrical signals. Example, radio, TV. C. Types of communication. There are 3 types of communication: intrapersonal, interpersonal, and mass communication. Books are a type of mass communication in which the media message is spread to a mass readership through the technology of printing. Other types of communication are intrapersonal, which refers to the thoughts that we think constantly, our communication with ourselves. Interpersonal, which means the exchange of information between 2 or more people. And mass communication. Technology is used to disseminate messages to a mass. Its definition is communication at a distance with technology mediating the production, transmission and reception. Mass media is another commonly used term. It means the diversified media technologies that are intended to reach a large audience by mass communication. The term is also used interchangeably for mass communications. The print media are a form of mass media that use a physical object such as newspaper, books, pamphlets or comics to distribute their information. The print media uses paper and printing to spread information or the media message to a mass. So books spread their message to vast audience. The other mass media, namely TV, internet, films and the radio, use different technologies like broadcast media such as radio, recorded music, film and television transmit their information electronically. Outdoor media is a form of mass media that comprises of billboards, signs or placards pasted inside and outside of commercial buildings, sports stadiums, shops and buses. Digital media comprises both the internet and mobile mass communication. While some forms of mass media are better suited to entertainment, others make more sense as a venue for spreading information. For example, in terms of print media, books are durable and able to contain lots of information, but are relatively slow and expensive to produce. In contrast, newspapers are comparatively cheaper and quicker to create, making them a better medium for the quick turnover of daily news. The television provides vastly more visual information than the radio and is more dynamic than a static printed page. It can also be used to broadcast live events to a nationwide audience, as in the annual State of the Union addresses given by the US President. However, it is also a one-way medium. That is, it allows for very little direct person-to-person communication. In contrast, the Internet encourages public discussion on issues and allows nearly everyone who wants a voice to have one. However, the Internet is also largely unmoderated and uncurated. Users may have to wade through thousands of inane comments or misinformed amateur opinions in order to find the quality information. Now let us look at a brief history of books. Books as we know them today came into being with the beginning of printing on paper. Long before the coming of the printing press, books were made of vellum or calf or lambskin because of its durability. Books took more than a year to produce and paper was too flimsy for the process. In 1452, Gutenberg conceived of the idea for movable type printing press. In his workshop, he brought together the technologies of paper, oil-based ink, and the wine press to print books. The printing press, however, was not a single invention. It was an aggregation in one place of technologies known for centuries before Gutenberg. Another discovery, the development of mass production paper-making techniques, helped in the mass production of books. We must clarify here that paper was discovered in China and brought from there to Italy in the 12th century, but was not used for printing because it was thought to be too flimsy. The first books to show up in print shops were Bibles and religious tracts. The next lot of books to attract publishers were the humanist texts brought back from Byzantium by the Crusades and other texts of antiquity. So while there was a replication of old ideas, mainly religious, there was little or no printing of new ideas. With printing, information spread to various strata of society and was not just limited to the elites. It marked the start of the modern world. This is sometimes also called the Gutenberg Revolution. Now let us look at the Gutenberg Revolution. So were there no books before the discovery of the printing press? Yes, there were, but they were handwritten and were read by the rich and powerful only. But the Gutenberg Revolution in 1452 changed all that. The period between the 13th and the 16th centuries saw the rise of a print-dominated society, one that moved away from the church's monopoly of information that existed during the manuscript book period. This was initially fueled by the reproduction of classic texts of antiquity. It was further fueled by the development of new kinds of books and science. These factors led to the development of books as elements of propaganda and religious education. Books were also not so popular yet, mainly because of the low literacy rate in Europe. Most people did not know how to read at all. But non-literates were still affected by the book trade because the elites who controlled society were affected by books. And people who could not read still had access to book culture because there were traveling raconteurs who stood in the market and read from books as a means of making a living as entertainers. Today, publishing academic journals and textbooks is a large part of an international industry. The shares of the major publishing companies are listed on the national stock exchanges, and management policies must satisfy the dividend expectations of international corporations. Now let us look at the 4 important periods in the history of the book. A. 7th to the 13th century. This is the era of religious publications, the age of religious manuscript book production, when Bibles and other religious publications were made. Books in this period are entirely constructed by hand and are largely religious texts whose creation is meant as an act of worship. B. 13th to the 15th century. This is the era of secular book production, the secularization of book production. Books are beginning to be produced that do not serve as objects of worship, but those that try to explain something about the observable world. The difficulty with the spread of such knowledge is that production is still taking place via preprint manuscript methods. The production of secular books was driven by two things. A. The rise of universities in Europe spreading from Italy, and B. The return of the Crusaders in the 13th century who brought with them texts from Byzantium. These books, written during the Greek and Roman periods in history, focused on world concerns. C. 15th to the 16th century. The first printed books. These are print versions of traditional works like the Bible, books of hours or prayer books, and the religious calendars. D. 16th to the 17th century. New information is put into books that have important consequences for European life and society. Books have stirred human emotions. They have sparked unrest, fanned hatred, but have also brought benefits and elicited love. What are these? Let's take a look at the role of books. What is the role of books in modern society? Why do we read books? Well, we do this to gain deeper knowledge about a certain subject or an issue. This applies to non-fiction books. If we want to know more about an issue like the discovery of photography, what would you do? Would you read a newspaper? Or would you read a book or watch a movie? You would reply, read a book on the topic. This, my friend, is the primary function of books. They transmit knowledge from one generation to another. Other mass media like the TV, the newspapers and films also partly carry out the same function, but not as well as books do. The incredible depths that books can go into that really no other form of entertainment or information can go into. An example is the fact that most of our cultural history from before the 20th century comes from books. Why else would we read books? Well, we do this to gain a firmer grasp of language, to be able to exercise our imagination, for entertainment and knowledge. Books also have another important function. They preserve cultural heritage. Books have been written on every subject for every type of reader. David Pearson's Books as History beautifully illustrates the idea of books as historical artifacts. Books down the ages have not been lifeless intermediaries in between authors and readers. A book can be written in, defaced, altered, beautified or cherished to produce a preservable object with an individual history. He seems to suggest that the physicality of the book increases its potential for value as an artifact as compared to a cybertext or e-book. Now let us look at books as communication. Books were made to preserve important texts and to pass knowledge to generations. Books owe their existence to their usefulness as an instrument of communication. Books have a capacity to store knowledge. Printing of books made them an instrument of communication in contemporary issues, affecting a large public. The thread of communication and continuation with the world of scholarship has continued through books. They brought in knowledge from the past and from far-off places. Books were physically present and remained for a long time for in-depth study till their message was understood. Now let us move to another area where books show a lot of diversity, that is in their types, characteristics and the kind of content that they carry. Books, as we know, come in different styles and types. There are books on fiction and non-fiction. There are self-help books, mysteries, educational books and on a variety of different subjects. You probably have your favorite type of book, either fiction or non-fiction. However, you might be interested in knowing about all of the subtypes or genres of books which are available. Now let us look at the different types of books that are available. A book is a set of blank sheets that are made of paper, parchment or other similar materials that have been printed or written on. There are non-fiction, there are fiction, self-help, autobiographies, biographies, science fiction, horror, mystery or suspense. A novel is a book with more than 40,000 words at best. It can be non-fiction or fiction. Science fiction, horror, mystery and suspense are some examples of genres. All books are either non-fiction or fiction. Non-fiction books contain factual information such as biographies and history books. Fiction books contain a story which was made up by the author. Books are typically classified as per their themes or subject matter. There is, for instance, fantasy, science fiction, romance, historical fiction, or horror books. The different types of books vary from everything to horror, fantasy, fiction, novels, short stories, and much more. There are even e-books now, books that can be read over the web. There are different types of books depending on the type of literature and genre that one is dwelling on. For instance, there are novels, there are poems, dramas, short stories and novellas. On the other hand, there are manuscripts, middle-age books, paper books and woodblock printing. What is non-fiction? Biographies are examples of non-fiction works. They talk about the lives of an important person. There are some exceptions to this rule. Journals such as the Diary of Anne Frank is also a journal, but it is a non-fictional journal. Other examples of non-fiction books are how-to books and travel books. Fiction. The most commonly read works are works of fiction. Fiction books are ones that have been made up. Perhaps some of their elements are based on hints of truth, but they have been elaborated, fabricated and used to embellish into a new story. Some examples of fiction books are The Sun Also Rises, To Kill a Mockingbird and Their Eyes Were Watching Gods. Now let us study the genres of books. The two types of books can be further subdivided into many different subtypes called genres. Here are some of the different genres of books which are available today. Science fiction, satire, drama, romance, mystery, horror, self-help, guides, travel books, children's books, religious books, science books, history books, math books, anthologies, poetry books, encyclopedias, dictionaries, comics, art books, cookbooks, diaries, journals, prayer books, series, biographies, autobiographies, and fantasy books. So what is the future of books? The book industry has changed enormously since its creation. From the invention of the papyrus scroll to the introduction of the e-book, new technologies continuously affect how people view and experience literature. With the advent of digital media, all media industries such as the book industry must find ways to adapt. Some fear that this new technology may destroy books as we know them. We feel that today the question is not whether books will last or whether it is useful as a communication tool. Even with the development of competing media of communication in the 20th century, books have thrived as a communication tool. The future of the book is tied to efforts to make it more useful.
There is an increasing demand from all sorts of readers these days to acquire books according to their comfort levels. This has also increased an innovation in distributing and also producing books, because books as a medium of increasing our knowledge or sharing our knowledge, going to a library and lending a book, or maybe carrying a whole lot of books maybe which are maybe either costly or maybe they are heavy in nature. Now, keeping the modern demands and comfort level in mind, the books are also catching up with the technology and the day-to-day advances. They are now, one process is what is happening if you talk about future of books. The existing printed books are converted into PDFs and are e-publications, which are available through the websites, through the apps or applications. They may be Windows based or Android based or computer based. These applications, with these applications, something like EPW, something, or any magazine, if you talk about these days, any magazine, journal, even the newspapers, these are variety of print medium, but especially if you're talking about books, they are available in these modern technologies with our same content, but they are very light, they are affordable, and you can carry them. You, for example, in a mobile phone or maybe a tablet PC, you can carry maybe thousands or lakhs of books with one single, maybe it can be half a kilo iPad, or maybe a mobile which is less than 300 grams. You can carry a number of books. So they are converted in different formats, but this is one process. The other process is that these books are also nowadays available, this content is available in different formats. For example, entire book is abridged to the chapter wise. If you wanted to access a particular chapter, you can directly go and access only that particular chapter. If a book has 10 chapters, if you wanted to know about the socio-economic condition of a particular group in a book, then you can exactly go to that chapter and you can buy that chapter. So what I would like to tell you is that the book sellers are also changing the way the book used to be distributed. So but the readers, mostly the young readers, you can they are very, the society is moving towards higher and higher technologies which are making things more compact and easily accessible. The books are also transformed to that kind of technology. You can share books through email by suggesting a site, or nowadays there are websites like gutenberg.org, and also there are MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge University, and even UGC, CEC, they are all e-Gyan Kosh. So there are the university theses, all are available to the people who can access anywhere any book is published. They are available freely. Some of these university documents, they made it available, like unpublished thesis. It's also a form of a book which is available to all the readers. So what I would like to tell you is that the new technologies gainfully increased the access of the books. The future is the e-library, that e-book is becoming more and more popular and most successful both for the reader and also for the seller. If we talk about the writer, nowadays the blog writing and also there are variety of web spaces. Even in the applications also you have been given a chance to express your own views, either there may be literary in nature or a scientific innovation or any kind of views, and these are all are giving a space for expressing your views. Later they may be converted into the books. And the last point of what I would like to tell you is that previously the printed books used to have ISBN number. If you wanted to trace any book, if you type that just ISBN number, entire details will come. Now what will happen in these new generation books which are not printed at all? What happens is that if you want, there are now e-ISBNs are available. There is a separate ISBN. If there is the same book is printed in a hard copy and printed and also available online, then what happens? You will be given a e-ISBN separately. So that, and also there are printing agencies, what they are doing, which is called print on demand. That means, as books requires to cut the trees or other kind of chemicals to use, this has made print on demand. If you want to order a book, then only the books will be printed according to the number. It will not be printed excessively, so that you can reduce the cutting of trees and help the environment by having them on your laptops, mobile phones and the computer. And I'm sure in future these books will be available with all the libraries with a fully digitalized things. Even though we cannot eliminate the print version of the books, but we can always have the option of having the books in our own way of comfort level.
Recap. In today's program, we have attained a basic understanding of the history of books, the relevance of the Gutenberg Revolution, types of books, their role and use as a communication tool. So keep reading always. See you soon. Goodbye.